Sweet. Good day, everyone. Good day to all the people watching this in the future. My name is Retabile. I'm a counseling psychologist, and I make YouTube videos where I discuss all things that are about mental health. And when I do so, I'm drawing from a couple of things. I'm drawing from my faith, I'm drawing from a love for films, and I'm drawing for all kinds of relevant popular culture events and things like that. So thank you for joining me. If you wind up liking the video, please go ahead and like it and click on that. If you wind up wanting to subscribe, then please do that as well. And I would love to hear from you regarding any comments, because the video that we're going to be doing today is a bit different to what I've done before so far. And yeah, I'm hoping that it can build up into a segment that I'm working on. And so what is that segment? That segment is about basically doing a movie review on certain films that are of particular interest. And it's about looking at it in two different ways. In one direction, looking at that film and discussing it from a purely filmmaker's perspective, regarding anything that has to do with the techniques. Is it a good film? Is it not? And then on the other hand, analyzing it from the perspective of a psychologist. So what are the psychological theories being applied, the ideas being explored, and so on. And so for that purpose, I have a guest. This gentleman goes a long way in my life. We've known each other. We've known each other since grade 4.
97, 97, Mrs. Oret's class.
Decades and decades.
Grade 4A, Hillcrest Primary. Wearing khaki shorts, Baba.
Green socks, man.
And brown shoes.
Woo! That's a long
time. That's now. Senyatso, all about.
So this, in fact, introduce yourself.
Kabalami Siyethemba Komonde. But when Reta met me, I was going by the name of Siyethemba Msomi, which is Sibongo Sawo Malum, Nkululeka Msomi. KZN, born and bred. And sorry guys, I must apologize if you hear children in the background.
It's life. It's life, right? This is life.
Showcase. Yeah. Ngazalelwa kaNongoma, which is northern KZN. And I guess when my mom and family, we traveled Sasafiano. So my mom's father, my grandfather, was a pastor in the Anglican church. So I guess he was a missionary and moved around my grandmother, I guess, because and then now the story really begins for me, Kwanyus, the Valley of 1,000 Hills. There we go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the story begins for me.
As you were speaking, I was hearing things. I'm just like, wow, I didn't think I knew that. Nongoma, Dwendwe. I'm just like, I need to have a conversation with you about that.
Because right, you know, this stuff, it's just like, it's not that like, you know, we don't really speak about that stuff. Because
yeah. But I think it's important. I think at some point, I'm going to put it, like understanding the deep history of your family is very key. And I think at this point in my life, especially, this is stuff that I realized I need to invest in coming to understand, you know.
No, for sure.
So it's worth it. So anyway, my story with you begins in 97, grade 4, Hillcrest Primary, and you living in Guangzhou.
Yeah, man. And yeah, bro, you're the one who's introducing Arsenal to me. I remember.
Yeah.
You and Bryce Foss, another guy who happened to be coming into Hillcrest actually the exact same year as you. He also ended up in grade 4A. So you guys are like the football freaks. And
he was with United. I chose Arsenal because I didn't like Man United.
Yeah. That's it. And I was always caught between because I didn't have no DSTV, nothing like that. So it's like, Thierry Henry did this. Like, who is Thierry Henry? Man United did this, but like everyone knew Man United was. And at that time, the Gunners were like, who are they type of thing, you know? There's probably the golden era, and some of us are just too young to understand.
You and I, we could have whole conversations about
this is not about that. Because right now, it could lead to another topic of, you know what I mean? And I don't want to say things that, another day.
Okay. So as far as our conversation today, right, what it is that I've asked you, what it is that what it is that we're here to do is to discuss a particular film.
Yeah.
And what it is that I have asked you to do is to watch the film, as I have as well. And then for us to have a conversation about that film from the two different kinds of places where you work. I don't think you introduced yourself professionally. So what do you do professionally?
Okay. Professionally, I spend my time trying to get compensated for standing behind a camera and a lens and taking moving photographs of pictures of people, things, and scenarios. In short, I'm a filmmaker, freelance, independent. My partner and I have our own little production company called the Daydream Film Company. I don't know if I'm allowed to plug, yeah?
No, go ahead, Brad. This is part of what this is for, Brad.
I don't know if I'm
Plug
allowed to
away.
plug, but yeah.
Plug.
For those of you who are so shy, you can go to Being Invaded. My first son is here. Sagit, please go to mommy. Thanks, Baba. Sharp fits. Whoa, thank. Bye. Sorry, guys. And he did it without fighting me. That was quite cool.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. Vetu. Please. Please close the door. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. There's two of them. So so where was I? We're talking about filmmaking, right? Yeah, I'm a filmmaker. So I was talking about people that are on socials. You can do the things. Instagram is the Daydream Film Company, I think. But I'm not into social media. I can WhatsApp. That's as best as I can do. But but yeah, if you think the Daydream Film Company on those social platforms, whether it be Facebook, whatever. Yeah.
So Daydream.
The Daydream Film Company. For short, it's called Daydream Films, but it's the Daydream Film Company.
Okay. And you are based.
Oh damn it, I'm doing a terrible job at this thing. Sorry, man. I'm so not used to. Yeah, but right now I'm living in Cape Town, and we're based out in Cape Town. Just because we're based out here doesn't mean we don't move around for what we need to do. We are pretty mobile, but I'm more of the freelance guy, because when I went to film school on my second bite at the cherry in Cape Town, I majored in cinematography. So yeah, so from there I graduated in cinematography, I guess, which is camera work and lighting, because I thought that's what would give me work. I thought, who would hire a director straight out of film school, so I thought, I'd be practical and yeah, so I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. I can kind of do it all, but in Daydream Films, I'm cinematographer, director, and writer, and B, is my partner, is the producer and writer. So yeah, we deliver films from the head, write them down and type them out, all the way to your small screen on Mzansi Magic, which is like our main client. Yeah.
Okay.
So we do a little bit of everything from narratives, drama, to corporates or music videos. But this thing is all about learning and giving other people opportunities. So we're trying to grow, just trying to grow.
Absolutely. No, man, absolutely. And I really appreciate that. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, man. Sorry, man. Yeah, bro. I've got an audience now that's just going in and out of this room, and I don't know what to do. I'm trying to remain calm.
Okay.
I don't want to disturb your thing.
Okay. Well, let me know. Let me know if you have a particular sort of problem. Okay. Can wait. Okay. So what it is then we decided to do today.
Sorry, bro. Can I just handle this quickly? Sorry. He just knocked over the stand.
We're having a bit of an intermission right now. Just give us a moment.
The joys, bro. The joys. Hey, wait. Yeah, I'm back now, full time.
Okay.
I've handled it.
So the film that we're going to be discussing today is it's a film called Hulk, right? So you guys would know the Incredible Hulk, superhero character from Marvel and so on. So we're going to be looking at one of the films about the Hulk, but we're not going to be looking at the more recent, Marvel comic universe of, of, of the Hulk. So we're not looking at Mark Ruffalo, we're not looking at Ed Norton, we're looking at the original film that came out in 2003. And this one is directed by Ang Lee. Okay?
Oh, yes, Mr. Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, with Eric Bana and in the lead, Jennifer Connelly. So, what is it? Nick Nolte as well.
Yeah, we're not allowed to have our phones in Google, right? Like on standby. Actually, I'm on my laptop. I can Google, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have my laptop here.
I'm trying not to Google as much as possible. So, like, as you're rattling their names, I'm like, oh, I wonder if like Eric Bana and Bruce Banner had anything to do with that casting.
No, it was
I
completely
hope
not.
No, you reckon?
I reckon. Yeah.
And I mean, it was the first and last time he played the character.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But what I will say, sorry to cut you off, I don't know where you're going with this. I'm just really excited. Because what excited me about this thing is it was before the whole Marvel universe shindig.
Yes. Yeah.
So for me, it kind of gave it a bit more character, or like, what can I say, more traditional storytelling, if you will. Man, like, yeah, man, I'll let you carry on. I just wanted to get that thought out of there before I forget it.
Yeah.
And carry on.
And I think that's a very good point regarding what makes this film quite different from the later on Marvel comic universe franchise that was created, right? Because after this film came out in 2003, in 2008, Marvel did like a reboot sequel type of combination film with Edward Norton. That one is called The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, okay.
That one belongs in the MCU. This one is before that. It stands alone outside, right? And so it doesn't have a relationship with the MCU that we know today. And so just like you said, it makes it a different sort of movie, and it makes it quite unique compared to the storytelling style that's in the MCU. And that's a significant part of the reason why I wanted to have a conversation about it, because it is really quite different. And the approach that Ang Lee took in making this film and in telling the story is very different to how it is that MCU films are made. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to look at it. You were saying something.
No, I mean, I just wanted to say something in general. From my side, I'm a superhero movie, really. Are not really my thing. But neither is sci-fi. But a movie is a movie to me. It's like music, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not really into. Actually, I'm actually into quite a lot of genres of music, but like, I'm not really into, I don't know, Mpakanga, for example. But Mpakanga is playing its music. I mean, I get the artistry of it. So with that being said, I've noticed with Marvel movies, and another thing, please don't, like, I'm not a comic Marvel MCU head or DC head.
Disclaimers. Okay, let's get these disclaimers out of the way.
Disclaimers out of there. Like,
we are not experts on MCU films. We are not experts on Marvel comics.
I couldn't tell you where Thanos comes from, but I've seen the movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know in what order Spider-Man does who, and when Robert Downey Jr. and when Terrence Howard got kicked off the film, and whoever comes on, and Doctor Strange. No. But what I've always liked, and which is a good segue into my point, is what I've always felt with Marvel movies, they've always been relatable. My characters.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what makes them trump over DC films, is that like all their characters are based on people. They're relatable. This is a scientist who's working on an experiment, or his father. He's a human being and this
Yeah.
experiment goes wrong, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas Superman is an alien who Kalal from another planet who's come to Earth. We don't really, relate to
Yeah.
that, if you know what I mean. So I've
Yeah.
always felt like I'm a Marvel movies. Another thing, I'm embarrassed to say this, but actually not
Mhm.
really. But like Iron Man, because I'm not a big
Yeah.
comic book fan. The only comic books I really knew growing up was really Spider-Man,
Mm.
Superman, bit of Batman, and Wolverine. And Wolverine was always in the yellow. That's how I remember
Yes.
Wolverine. He was
Yeah.
always in the yellow, yeah. Well, so I didn't know that these are different universes or whatever that the case may be. But the thing
Yeah.
about Marvel movies, I could watch a Marvel movie. I believe Wolverine is also
Yeah.
Marvel, yeah. That movie is
Yeah.
brilliant. Logan. I could
Yeah.
watch it by itself. I don't need to know what's going on in the universe and whatever. It always follows the 3 act structure, if you will. The hero,
Yeah.
beginning, middle, and end. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. And I've liked that about Marvel movies. And this is why they're so brilliant, because anyone can just get into them.
Yeah. And look, what you're saying is true, and I think it's part of what makes them fun. And when we're speaking about Marvel, we're talking about, I mean, like the MCU that we know today began in 2008, and it began
Yeah.
with the first Iron Man film.
Yeah,
Because
exactly. And then yeah,
they've been releasing them
100%.
in big phases, right? And so it
100%.
starts with Iron Man, and then the Incredible Hulk is part of that. Whereas Hulk is not. It was a standalone film made early in the day, before the kind of era of comic book films that we know today. And for me, it's the difference in cinematic style and the content and the depth to which Ang Lee tries to build up the character of of Bruce Banner, in trying to understand what is hulking out about. What is going on when this guy has this hulking out episode, and where does it come from? What does it mean? Or are we just talking about a guy with superpowers, right? And I think it's that in-depth sort of investigation and storytelling that Ang Lee does, which makes it very different from the Marvel comic book universe that happens from 2008 onwards. Because whereas those kinds of films are very relatable. You feel that they primarily targeted at like 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds,
Yeah,
right? And they're
that's
fun.
powerful as well.
And the family can come and watch them, and you get like your serious moments, and you get your jokes, and you get whatever it is that you need. It's a nice theme park ride. Where this one is different, and kind of from a filmmaking storytelling perspective, it's like eating very heavy, dense, nutritious food, where you have to walk away from it and it's like process it to really understand what this guy was trying to achieve.
Yeah,
And that's the reason why I wanted to take a look at it.
cool, man.
So let's just do a story overview, right?
Okay,
So
sure.
most people know the story of the Hulk. It's effectively the alter ego of a scientist called Bruce Banner, right? Bruce Banner is a scientist. His character, and again, disclaimers all around. Okay, I'm just telling you from what I understand. Okay, so he's a scientist. He is studying in the field of genetics, improving the human immune system, regeneration, and so on, right? And in the film, what it is that he doesn't understand or know is that the military is looking to use this technology for the purposes of effectively trying to create super soldiers, which is,
What
regular
America
comic.
does all the time whenever you see military, it's about to
Right,
happen.
right.
Damn the
And
Americans
so,
and their propaganda, man.
yeah.
Oops,
So that,
am I allowed
that
to say
that's
that? No.
it's we'll accept it. Let's just we'll
Sorry,
accept
my first
that.
strike. You should start editing strikes in
Yeah.
here. Sorry, don't
so
do strikes.
so
That's yellow card.
that's the overall kind of story arc, and I think we're quite familiar with that. So I'm going to be getting into the psychological stuff, but I would like to kind of hear from you cinematically what it is that you saw that you liked, what you didn't like, what was good, what was bad, in terms of just like how this movie is made, and including how they tell the story. Just like, what did you see? What did you see?
To be honest, le movie there. So I think Saibuga back in the day. I think we watched this back on VHS. I have a sneaky suspicion that we did. And when I was watching it, when was it? Yesterday, around this time actually. I was shocked. Nothing was coming back to me.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. Nothing was coming back to me until I saw Eric Banner actually. I was like, huh, okay. And then the Hulk freak out. But long story short, I guess I don't like to do movie reviews and stuff like that. And I'm gonna pretend like this is me and you, so I can be totally honest. You know.
Please.
And Vetu, like, yeah, but everyone's entitled to their own opinions. I thought the film was okay. We're not grading it on any sort of system, and so we're not here about that. But I thought the film was well done in a sense of the. I like how he tried to be faithful to the comic strip style in the cross dissolves.
With the cuts.
Yeah, with the cuts and stuff, and that because that helped build the tension, especially in the opening act, like his father.
That opening act is,
Like it was. I thought that was quite a good way. The whole I like the damn it, I always do this. I always start off in a thought, and in the middle of that thought, I remember something, but I'll remember it later. But the reason why I'm remembering this is because I remember the starfish, the frog, and the things that the dad was working on the experiment. So now I'm asking myself, what was how? Because he could leap like a frog. He could leap like a frog. And is he a starfish as well? I mean, it was three things that I remember, three animals. I remember. I don't remember the third one. Maybe there wasn't. But I really like that storytelling in the sense that I'm now seeing a backstory of how Bruce Banner came to be Bruce Banner.
Exactly.
And it all starts with the father. And I hate to get So I'm not going to tell the story because I think you've already explained the story. So I may be jumping all over the place, and please forgive me. It's just because of the way the thoughts are coming to my head. So if I were to start off with that backstory in itself, for me, I love the idea of having the two fathers. It was almost like foreshadowing, not foreshadowing, but like, how can I say, the sins of the father. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But for both the characters of Bruce Banner and whether it was his love interest or not, the Chikibu, what's her name? Can I say Chikibu?
Betty. Betty. So you have Bruce and Betty and their
and
father.
both and their fathers. That's what I actually loved about the story, personally. I loved that foreshadowing. I really loved that foreshadowing, and I loved how their battle was transferred into their children, but then how they could also manipulate their children to fulfill their own ambitions or their own goals. So I loved how each one of these four characters had a goal. Even though I felt really, for me, I didn't understand, but once I in that relationship, like, are they together? Did I miss a sex scene or something? Like,
so then I
what's
think
going on?
That's a very good
that's where
point
for me it fell a bit flat, because I felt her character was almost used as fodder, to say love will prevail or whatever the case may be.
And it had the potential to be that way, right? Where Jennifer Connelly's character, the character of Betty, could have been written in such a way that she's effectively deflated, just to be able to serve as like background for what happens to Bruce. But that's not what happens. I mean, I could have a whole rant about what George Lucas did to Natalie Portman's character by the time Revenge of the Sith comes around. But
Yeah,
that's a
man.
whole other conversation.
And that's and you know
Let's
me and Star Wars
let's just
Askaze
stop.
vele, but I've
Let's not
heard.
let us not go down that rabbit hole. I
Yabo,
shouldn't have
kuthiwa
even
niyakhala
pointed
bafethu
that.
nina ama-Star Wars fans
Let's
angempela kuthiwa
let's
niyakhala.
let's stay where we're at. So you're talking about, yeah, what's going on in this relationship
Yeah.
between these two, because it can be difficult to understand if you weren't paying attention to certain things. So yes,
Which may have
that
been the
first,
case for me.
perhaps,
Because
so
like yeah. As you were.
okay, so the opening act sets the scene, and I absolutely agree. So everything about how it is that it's cut, the music, I think it's Danny Elfman that was making it, really gives it that kind of mad scientist comic book feeling about it. The musical
I
theme
love
that
the
he used,
music. But
it's beautiful.
the first track kind of confused me though. I won't lie. You know when the
Yeah,
Universal title comes up, it had this
yeah.
crazy orient. I thought like Gladiator. You know what I mean? It had that Gladiator
Oh
almost
no,
esque at the beginning
it's
before it jumped into that mad scientist vibe. I was like, oh, but I was really vibing with the music.
okay,
You know what I mean?
okay,
Like
okay.
at the opening
Yeah,
title, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't remember this movie like this. And then
and then it
okay,
drops.
then it drops. No, I dig the
Yeah.
music. It was cool.
So okay, so the events at the beginning of the film, the critical events that really matter, are not told at the beginning of the film.
For sure.
It's like
Yes.
at the beginning of the film and right through up until you find out what really happened to Bruce at the beginning of his life,
Yeah.
that is information that gets filled in slowly and slowly as the film unpacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that's unpacked very slowly is the history of the relationship between Bruce and Betty, right? And I think what's key in terms of understanding what happened or what's been happening between the two of them is to understand how it is that Bruce Banner, at that point, they knew him as Bruce
Yeah.
Krenzler, Dr.
Yeah.
Krenzler,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Dr.
How
Krenzler, I
how
think
he
it was.
happens to become that person. And
Yes.
so there's some
He
things
was
that are
adopted,
important.
right? Yeah.
He was adopted, yeah,
By that
right?
strange woman. It's like, whoa. You remember seeing
This
that woman?
person,
Like, it was like, yo, no, your mom had
right?
black hair, dog. Like, what happened now?
And so that's the thing. At the beginning of the film, the events that are happening are stuff. Think of the story. Think of the character that Ang Lee is trying to build, right? What it is that Ang Lee is trying to do. Ang Lee is trying to understand, how does Bruce Banner become the Hulk? How does a person with that sort of power inside of them become the way that they are?
And it's
What
because
it
of
is
his
that
father.
Bruce, yes, that's true. So it's things that his father did to him at the beginning, right? And his father wasn't necessarily intending to infect his son with that thing that he was experimenting with himself on, but his curiosity increasingly gets the better of him, right?
Yeah. Which he
And
also
this is something
unpacks
that
at
he
the
says,
climax. Yeah.
and he keeps trying to figure it out. And then at some point, he realizes that what it is that he's done is very, very dangerous, right? And those are some of the events that keep getting suggested at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
You know, that whole scene that's happening behind the door, and
Oh
as
man,
he's watching,
that was very, very good. That in terms of like being intense and then also that making that I also thought like I love it when I love it when films can use something
mm,
like a tool like because that was like man, I forget the film term for this thing. But the fact that he didn't want to remember what
yes,
happened. It wasn't something that was just left like it's just a trope. Because a lot of movies these days, they just have tropes and events for the sake of having an event. It's not like it's like it was actually something that had
exactly.
purpose. Would say he
It
actually
serves a
had to
purpose.
open the door, you know.
And this film, and in this film, this experience, the way that Betty experiences Bruce is at the heart, is at the core in terms of explaining what is happening to Bruce Banner when he hulks out. Because I remember when I was watching because how we watched this film for the first time, it was a double disc DVD at
Okay.
Chris's house.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the film, but then in the second disc, it's like one of those commentary
Of
making
course,
of all of that kind of
you
stuff,
did
right?
your homework on it in 2003 already. Gosh.
Yeah, right?
Ugh.
And in that disc, they have a conversation with Ang Lee, right? And one of the thing that he says about what hulking out is about, ordinarily, again, in MCU style, hulking out is just about being angry. You make Bruce Banner angry, he turns green, right? What Ang Lee says, I think, is very insightful, and I think it's at the heart of how he writes the film and how he builds the character of Bruce Banner. He says hulking out is about trauma. That's what hulking out is about, right? And by understanding that, what he does is to begin to build up the character of someone who was deeply traumatized as a child. And as the film unfolds, it's like you imagine Bruce Banner as an onion, right? And more of the kind of defense mechanisms that he activated unconsciously when he was a child are getting peeled away as this person, his dad, increasingly comes back into his life, right? And as certain events happen that kind of seem to confirm that there's something different about himself that he's always kind of suspected. And then when that experiment goes wrong with the gamma radiation and he doesn't die, that's when he begins to suspect that there's something going on inside of him that he didn't know about, but it's very different. And this key, that idea of not remembering is very important. So at the beginning of the film, we know something happens to him. And the next thing we know, there's this other lady who's raising him. And he's not called Banner. He's called Krenzler. But the key thing that he keeps saying is that he doesn't remember. He doesn't remember his parents. He doesn't remember anything. It's like the way that Bruce Banner experiences himself is that he basically emerged from a black hole. That he doesn't have a past. And that's part of the reason why him and Betty have such a difficult relationship, because they clearly get along and they're good colleagues. And there's like attraction, tension, but Betty can't just get through to this guy because he doesn't reveal anything about himself. It's like there's nothing there. He's a very emotionally distant and very closed off person, And I remember Betty Betty compares him to her dad. She says, I have this need for emotionally distant men.
I remember saying.
Yeah, and that's
to the end of the film, to figure out, because I thought she was talking about the other douchebag, but then I was like, no, he's not emotionally distant. That guy is throwing his weight around. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely, he's all over the place. Yeah. It's not that guy. It's her dad.
Yeah, definitely.
And so as far as kind of beginning to explain what's going on between Bruce and Betty, and I think that is a significant part of the explanation. Betty's always been trying to get close to Bruce because she loves him, but Bruce is never there, because he doesn't even know himself, at least that's what it is that I understood.
No, for sure. If it's like, you put it in the best way possible for whoever's listening, because I think that's I didn't understand. Let's say keep on, man. If it's in your sandan, no man sandan, keep on, But obviously that was part of it, like for Bruce to be distant due to his trauma. And I think that's the theme of this film, it's trauma. And I'm glad you put it like that, because we can just end this podcast right now. Because that for me, you know what I'm saying? Like for me, Young Kelendovitz was about trauma, bruh. It trauma ka Bruce. Actually, because I was watching the film with my family, and when the reveal happened, what happened with his dad and the knife, I was just like, and then it got me thinking about how we grew up in the early 90s. Some of us have even suppressed those memories, well, I don't know, but like we grew up in a time where there was a lot of violence around us, so trauma, and it got me thinking about, I mean, I know you don't want us to politic and stuff, but like it got me thinking about how many people just around us in our country are walking around with severe trauma. And I just feel like I'm glad you've put it like that. It and Ang Lee, he said it in the DVD that it's about the trauma. And obviously, if someone's choking you out, you're not gonna say, "You don't want to see me traumatized," you know. It's
Yeah,
gonna be,
yeah. In the moment, it
you know,
isn't the trauma that's coming out of it. It's
it's
you
you're
defending yourself.
exactly. You know what I mean? And bruh, and like I really thought that was I thought the film Jay, for me personally, it was good. The only thing I didn't, I guess, when he transformed into the Hulk the first time, like when he
Yeah,
just went mad in the lab and started trashing everything. I guess it was
yeah.
him just, like what we'd say, just letting your hair down, or letting loose. Or I mean, he's now in this green body. I don't know what was going on, because I was like, this
So,
damage is so unmotivated, dog. Like, are you angry and
well,
smashing things because Hulk smash? Then it's fine, if it's Hulk smash, But
yeah.
otherwise, I
Well,
thought it would have always been brought on by something of that nature, would say,
mm,
but I guess, because, like, as you say, the more things started being revealed to him, because, like, as you say, bo muntu bengafuni ukuthi, ukhumbule. I
yeah.
guess, yeah, because, like, I just felt like it was just like, even the way that scene with Betty's dad was just like, yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, no one could ever forget something that sick or whatever, just like, and he
And
just
he's
looked at
like,
him like,
I,
"Ukhuluma ngani?"
yeah,
You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
I really, it's like, I liked how it was. This is the thing. I wish I could remember, because I know I've watched other Hulk movies. I know I've watched
yeah,
Ed Norton's one,
yeah.
but I forgot it. I know I've watched the other part of the MCU one as well, but I forgot it. And I'm just trying to think, were they as rich in terms of
No,
story?
I
Because
can, I
this
can
is
tell you
what
that for a
I'm
fact.
telling you. No, 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 like, maybe they were just unmemorable. I mean,
Yeah,
I can say it. I mean, I'm Wakhumbuli. I mean,
yeah,
but like this, I just felt like I really liked the whole ukuthi ngiyayibona motivation ukuthi kephi. Yabo,
yeah. The
you want to
drives for
discover
the
yourself.
character.
Yabo, exactly, man. That's what I like. The fact that those two had unfinished business. Njengobusho
Mm,
lona curiosity yakhe, he's conscious as well. Now, if it's ubaba
mm.
Bruce Banner naye, une-trauma naye, and it's his trauma
Yeah,
that's been
yeah,
eating him up. I-trauma yakhe
yeah,
futhi lemenze a-drive to try and want to see if his experiment, is
yeah,
successful,
yeah,
and I think naye uzama ukublock izinto, naye he was, I mean, the fact that in the climax, I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead here, but like
yeah.
the
It's
fact that in
fine.
the climax he was talking on like vele ngizobona indodana yami angempela, I'm here to see like Hulk, not you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the guy changed for the worst, you know.
He changed for the worse.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
you
his
know.
the
Yeah,
developmental arc of the dad
yeah.
goes from a place where he's a
Where it starts
curious
off,
scientist,
yes, a curious
and
scientist who can't handle rejection. Everything falls
yeah,
apart because of his curiosity, and his
yeah,
curiosity becomes an obsession, which
yeah,
drives him to do all these things. And then when he loses the funding, I mean, I've already mentioned rejection and whatever, and
yeah,
it always, and like he goes back home, the tragedy happens. He's in
yeah,
obscurity for 30 years. He's locked up. This
yeah,
guy gets a new identity, and no one has dealt with anything of the past. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
the discovery of Bruce, and now, like, he's like you say, he's like, oh my gosh, did it work? I think it worked. You
yeah.
know, I need to check him out, and now I need to tell him the truth, which I say, as in, when your identity, da, 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 da. And can you imagine if someone comes to you today and says, hey, actually, I'm your dad.
Your whole life up until now, not true, not true. And matter of fact, and that's the thing. You were asking about what was happening when Bruce helped out for the first time.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the setting for where it happened and the triggers that lead it to happen are very important. Again, for Ang Lee's argument that this is about trauma. Because what begins to happen in the film is that
mm-hmm.
his dad begins to show up in his life.
Sure,
He doesn't
yeah,
know who he
yeah,
is, that
exactly. He's
he's
like the
this
janitor.
janitor
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
these dogs. and he's weird, and he's very close, and he speaks about, and the more he begins to find out, it's like you see bits and pieces of these memories kind of getting triggered. And he begins to realize that this guy seems to be, like at the beginning, this is just some crazy old man. But the more he finds out about him, he begins to suspect that this guy seems to be, that what he's saying seems to explain certain things about me that I suspected, but I didn't
want to accept, you know.
Right. And and by the time his first hulking out has happened, a couple of things have happened. Betty's dad has freaked out at him. He's getting phone calls from Betty, who's concerned about him, and he's busy trying to do research to understand this thing that's going on inside of him. And that's when the Hulk, that's what triggers the first hulking episode. And I think it's meaningful that it happens in the lab, first of all, you know, because you see that.
Of course, I mean, I think very. No, bro. I mean, I thought, to be honest with you, like, I thought, now that you say it like that, I was just like, okay, maybe, I was like, niggas under pressure. You know what I mean? There's a lot that's going on. Things are flying, and the lab had to be, you know, because I feel that's where the Hulk was kind of born anyway, in a lab.
And he describes it afterwards, you know, when he's talking to Betty. It was like being born.
Yeah, so I dig that. But I just, like I said, I get it now, because I was just like, come on, bro, like, no one made you angry. You just, you know, you're just coming to terms with a few things. You know what I mean?
There's one more thing during that scene. There's one more thing. This
is after his buddy has talked to him.
Yeah, this is after his buddies talked to him, right?
Yeah.
This is after he's visited him in hospital, and where he's telling him more and more. But another thing to notice about that first hulking scene is the fact that his dad is there.
Yes,
right.
Witnessing,
and you notice, like, they have this moment that I think is evidence for what Bruce's experience is at that moment, because he's fully hacked out and he's doing the whole smash and everything, and then he sees his dad in the door, and he calms down, right? And he comes towards him, and he's having this very kind of intimate, tender moment, and his dad tries to reach out to him, you know, Bruce, my Bruce, and then Bruce is leaning in, and then it's like you see him jump, and then it's like he begins to remember again, and then he jumps out the roof and runs away, right? And I, like, at that moment, it was like, it's like, so okay, let me just step back and describe to you the engineering of my thoughts.
For sure.
In order to be able to understand this film in terms of what Ang Lee's doing, you have to understand something about psychoanalytic theory, right? So if you were to talk about the foundations of psychology as it exists today, you have to talk about psychoanalysis, which means talking about Sigmund Freud, right? Now, for all the weird things that this guy thought and the ideas that he had, this guy is pretty much about the cornerstone of modern psychology, because of the basic idea that he had about the construct of the human mind. And the idea was a person's mind is more than just what it is you see. The idea is that there are levels to a person's mind, right? So at the top, there's let me start at the bottom. If you think about a person's mind, you have to think about it like how you would understand an iceberg and how it works. So when you see the actual ice at the top of the iceberg above the waterline, what you're seeing can be very humongous, and it's huge and it's intimidating even. But the idea is beneath the waterline, there's actually even more size that you are not perceiving, right? And so the idea that Freud has is that when it comes to understanding how the human mind works, kind of from an engineering perspective, how it's put together, you have to understand that in terms of who you are and the things that make up what you are and why you think and function the way that you do, most of you is not something that you are aware of. Most of the reasons why you do things the way that you do, most of the reasons why you are the way that you are not necessarily things that you are consciously aware of. They're happening, but in the background, right?
Sure.
So if you could think about it in modern terms, with your smartphone, you have apps that run in the background. They update, they keep themselves fresh. And so they busy chowing data and so on, but you don't see it. But this activity that he does is that he describes that infrastructure of the human mind on 3 different levels. Okay. At the very bottom, the bulk, the majority of the iceberg beneath the water, he calls that the id. So the idea of what the id is are your basic physical, psychological drives. So this is the part of you that tells you you need to eat, you need to drink, you need to reproduce. It's your core drives, okay? This is about keeping you alive. And so when it comes to the things that the id will be after, I mean, you and I have kids, right? Our kids, toddlers, they run on pure id. It's like when they want it, they want it. They're not going to stop and ask themselves, is it healthy? What time of the day or night? Is it legal for me to have it? Is it appropriate? And you're not going to do it. It's like they want what they want and they want it now.
One time.
One time, right? And so that's the basic idea of the id. It's about fulfilling and satiating your basic needs, with very little regard as to circumstances, logic, reasoning, all of that kind of stuff. Then the next level up, the next layer up is the ego, right? And the role of the ego is quite unique. So maybe to explain the ego, I have to talk about the superego. The superego is the part above the water, right? And so that's the part of yourself that you see, the part of yourself that you are conscious to, right? So the idea is when you think about yourself, when you think about who you are and how you function, the part that you're usually talking about is the superego, right? So this is the part of yourself where you describe yourself as being like, I'm a hard worker, I have discipline, I can delay gratification, all of this stuff. And all of that is true, but those are things about yourself that you're consciously aware of, right? Yeah. So that's at the top. That's like your most logical, most reasonable, high functioning part of you. Now we've talked about the id. The superego is the person in between, right? So think of your ego as being like a doorkeeper, So trying to keep the peace between the needs of the id. So when your base instincts tell you do that, your ego is trying to negotiate between that and your superego, and it's asking you, okay, you want that, I understand. But should you? Is that a good idea? Is it the right time? Do you have the right reasons to do this? That's the kind of the basic idea of the relationship between these 3 different levels, right? And so this is an idea that Ang Lee understands when building up the character of Bruce Banner, that there are things going on in the background of who he is, in the id, in his subconscious mind, which have been actually driving the person that he's become. But because those experiences are so traumatic, they've been repressed. I have to actually quickly look it up because I always get it wrong sometimes, the difference between repression and suppression.
Suppression and?
Repression compared to suppression. So this is the concept, this is the idea, the basic idea of repression or suppression is the idea that the human mind is capable of experiencing severe trauma.
Yeah.
And when it does, the trauma can become so extreme and so severe that your mind has the ability to protect you from it by making it difficult for you to have access to it, right? It's kind of like your mind, the inside of you takes that traumatic experience, puts it in jail and locks the door. so that you
Except
can't
it's like one
remember.
of those Hannibal Lecter kind of jails. So like even when you visit, you can't see through the bars.
It's that sort of thing, right? And so the difference between the concepts of repression and suppression is that in one concept, so repression involves unconsciously blocking unwanted thoughts or impulses. So when you repress a memory, your mind is doing it for you. It's you're not doing it on purpose,
And then when you suppress
right?
it, it means you're doing it on purpose.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. So
That's
one
one
is
way to
deliberate.
remember it.
Yeah, yeah. And so the idea with what's happening with Bruce is that these traumatic memories are suppressed, are repressed. You
Yeah.
know, of course,
They
therefore he doesn't know that.
yeah, he doesn't know. And I like how you brought back the iceberg to Ang Lee and Bruce. So Bruce's iceberg that we see is the Hulk.
No,
Because
the
because he
iceberg
did
that
say
you see,
because he did say he likes it. He feels alive. When she asked him, remember
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So what part of the iceberg is telling him that he actually likes it? Because remember, he described three things about it.
it's okay.
No, I forget. But if
It
I
was
remember,
fear. What was it?
but it was three
Yeah, I
things that he
remember.
said.
He said it was freedom. It was
Yeah,
freedom.
freedom, something. But
Fear. It
freedom
was
was the last.
freedom, power, and
I think
yeah, it
Koshwa
was
was the last one.
power, something else, and freedom.
Yeah, I think freedom was the last one. You know.
Right.
And yeah, but I just remember.
So
So now, when we bring it back to the iceberg, which part of him likes
so
this?
the
Because
super the
sorry
super
as well sorry as well before you continue, the green is representing whatever was put in the DNA that makes him Hulk, and that's
yeah,
been suppressed in his body. Or it doesn't matter if it's suppressed or repressed in the body because that was a genetic modification. But
yeah,
that accident in the lab triggered that thing to
yeah,
bang. So it could
exactly,
almost be like there was a traumatic experience, like that door. It could be that door, you know,
exactly, right.
and
So
bang.
this analysis is happening on a couple of different levels, right? And it has to do with how it is that trauma works or how it is that people cope or survive with difficult life experiences, right?
Yeah.
So you were asking which part of his
Iceberg.
which part is the Hulk for Bruce Banner in terms of that sort of iceberg illustration. I would argue that the super ego part of it, so the
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
I'm a person part, that's Bruce Banner. That's him being, in fact, no, specifically, that's him being Bruce Krensler. So that's him
Yeah.
being the
What we
Bruce
see.
where
Yeah.
he's a scientist, he doesn't remember anything about his past, he was adopted, he has a relationship with Betty, and he's doing research about immunity stuff.
Yeah.
That's him being the super ego, right? The id is Hulk. It's that raw part of you where it's have
But
you
that
ever
part
thought
was
about
dormant. But that part was dormant until
his dad came
his dad came around and started,
yes,
revealing all these things of the
kind
past and
of poking the
prodding.
bear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trying to find the green.
exactly, right.
Because
And
he
the
knew
thing
what
about
Bruce
what's
was,
going on,
he knew. And Bruce was kind of like almost like, I wouldn't say a burden, but the mom knew something was up,
his
with
mom,
a kid.
yeah,
I mean,
the
it's kind
story,
of it's not really it's not really implied, but you can see, like, even when the other mom is like, another kid was just cried, and it's like, yeah, well, Bruce is just, I don't think
he's
she uses
so
the word different, but like he just holds things in.
he's
He's
bottled, he's
bottles.
bottled up.
So what's that?
Yeah.
He represses them or suppresses things? What would that
So
be?
okay, so the idea that kind of that Ang Lee's building up into, right? If Bruce Banner was my client, right? Let me describe to you what I would be thinking. First of all, we have to talk when it comes to understanding any particular person. We have to ask ourselves the idea of predisposition. So, you would know about the whole nature nurture idea, right? It's that there are certain things that contribute to the person that we become that are purely inherited. So we're talking about our genetic inheritance. right? So you inherited something from your mom, you inherited stuff from your dad, and it isn't just about your physical self, but it also has to do with biological experiences that you are more or less susceptible to having. And so you may come from a family. So I come from a family where there's a high rate of hypertension, blood pressure diseases. That's a thing in my family. It's not a guarantee that I'll get it, but chances are it's easier for me to develop that problem, right? And the same thing happens regarding a person's personality or their temperament. So you have people like you and me have very different temperaments. Your temperament growing up has always been kind of friendly, charming, out there. People like you. You've always been, I don't mean this in a bad way, but you've always been like the center of attention,
God, that is a
growing
bad
up.
way.
That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Like everyone liked you. Everyone likes you. You know what I mean?
Well, that
like
was my Bruce what?
Bruce Krenzler.
Yeah, that was my Krenzler, dog. I was on my Krenzler steeds. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But everyone has like a basic temperament, right? So that's the nature side. But the nurture side has to do with what happens to you, how you grow up, the things that happen to you, good things, healthy things, bad things, unhealthy things. And that stuff goes into there like a mixture, right? And so what it is that Bruce's mom is alluring to, kind of from a developmental perspective, is the idea that Bruce probably naturally was a kind of closed off kid. And we're not talking about it being bad. Some people are just like introverted, you know?
That's true.
They prefer their own company.
They find like that, yeah.
They don't necessarily, some people are like that, It doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that they don't want to socialize. They just, they experience it differently. It's tiring,
For sure.
So that's part of what it is that I think she's suggesting. What happens to him, though, takes that and it dials it up to a 20, because it worsens it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. But yeah, otherwise, man, I thought, bro, like I said, man, like, I don't want to say this, man, because now I want to watch the other Hulks,
Yeah.
Now I need to give Ed Norton a chance. Goodness.
No. Ed Norton, look, Ed Norton was very good, because what it is that he was trying to do was to bridge the two worlds. He was trying to take like the seriousness of Ang Lee and bring it down to the Marvel level. And he did that. He achieved that. Mark Ruffalo, I don't care. I mean, he's a nice guy, but I don't care for his portrayal of the Hulk because it's bad. He's bad.
I thought the film was, as much as sorry, man, like I'm just caught up in two thoughts. Like it's like, damn, we're already at the climax of the film and the ending, really? Because I know we've been jumping, because we've jumped back to the beginning to the mom's thing, because of the iceberg story. But I just in a nutshell, I enjoyed it, and even though I don't relate to superhero films, which is good because he wasn't a superhero. He didn't have to save a city. You know what I'm saying? And another thing, this freak was saving the guys that were shooting him as well. I don't think there were any casualties. He was saving all of them. You know what I mean? When they were hunting him. I think he saved most of the pilots, that came after him. And I liked how it didn't become like a Michael Bay kind of fiasco type of like.
Thank God. Michael Bay is a genre of film by himself. It's like Roland Emmerich, you know what I mean? It's like when Roland Emmerich makes the film, it's just like, this guy's gonna end the world. I have to see this.
It's just the world is coming to the. You know what I'm saying? It's disaster films one time, right? It's just a race against time as the world slowly implodes. Whether it be aliens, or an invasion of some sort, or just the world imploding by itself. Yeah, that's his
You
bag.
know, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, man, like I enjoyed the film. Like I also liked the open-endedness of it in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Um, I liked how it's look, the dad and the daughter's relationship is somewhat repaired. It's not it's not all there, but now there's more cordial, more civil. And I liked how they
Yeah.
didn't make it, oh dad, I love you and I'll tell you whatever.
Uh,
Because she got used by the old man as well.
yeah.
But then I
Yeah.
liked how he kind of also changed in a way by saying, I'm gonna take over this thing as well. Like now he grew a pair,
Yeah.
type of thing. So I liked how their story kind of ended without them also saying, they were both alone. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah.
They were
They're
both alone
both
in
of
the end.
them.
Like
Yeah.
alone. There's
Yeah.
no Hulk for him to chase. There's
And there's no
no
Bruce for her
Hulk.
to
There's
have.
no Bruce for her to have. I love that.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
did like that.
Yeah.
I can only assume the father, Nick Nolte, died in that whatever
You know,
happened.
what happens to him, I
But
think he does
it's
die, but what happens to him is actually, it's
because
weird.
wasn't he a starfish or something? Like he had something that was going on with him.
Okay, so that's the thing. So what it is that he did, right? Remember, yeah. So of course, we're
He
going back to
modified
the
the
beginning,
dogs,
right?
and he
Where
was
he experimented
not
himself
himself.
originally,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
And then he passed it down to his kid. But what it is that he was talking about is the fact that for some reason, what happened with Bruce was a lot more stable than what it is that happened with himself, right? And so he's been trying to perfect it so that it looks more like Bruce, this
Yeah.
thing that he's created. But in himself, it's a lot less stable. And it's the same thing with the dogs. But remember, just like what you and I were talking about the character arc of Bruce's dad, he starts off as this brilliant, curious scientist, starts taking it too far, realizes how far he was, tries to stop it, ruins his life, and it goes away for 30 years. And by the time he comes back, he has a giant chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, he wants to prove people wrong. And at that point, like for a while, he still had a deep connection and empathy with his son. But then past the point, he viewed Bruce as an obstacle.
Yeah.
All he wants is the thing that's inside of it. He just wants to have it. He
Everyone
wants
wants
that
a
power.
sample now.
You know,
Yeah.
he wants that power. Because I remember in that speech,
Yeah. Like,
brilliant freaking speech that Nick Nolte makes. He talks about basically he hates the government. He hates the government. He hates governments. He sees them as being in the way. You know, he's that typical kind of superhero villain who wants to evolve mankind, but he wants that power to himself. You know, but I remember you remember because the kind of thing that happens to him is that he basically starts consuming the energy of whatever he touches.
Yeah.
Becomes it, right?
Yes. I remember
And
that. That was pretty dope.
towards the end, when they've been fighting, what it is that he does, he's trying to suck this thing out of
Out of
Bruce.
Bruce, yeah, I
And
remember. And he's
Bruce
like, you
is
can have it
yelling
all.
he's like, yeah, you think you can take it, then have it. Because he
Yeah.
never wanted this thing. He just
Yeah.
get the hell rid of it. You think you can handle it, then take it. And then as you see him have it, he starts to die.
Yeah, it's
You
like,
know,
it's
because
too much.
that's exactly it.
Something to that effect.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Yeah, it's really cool that you mentioned that.
I mean,
the one guy lived in he lived long enough. Okay, let me not put it like that. Bruce's dad and Betty's dad arced into like reversing, if you know what I mean. The one guy, because Betty's dad is the antagonist here. Let's not get that wrong.
Yeah.
He's the antagonist. He's the bad guy that's after Bruce. He represents the army and whatever. But he became full circle because of Nolte because Nolte ended up being the antagonist. You know what I mean?
By the end, that kind of switched roles. By the end,
that kind of switched roles, which I also thought was pretty cool. You know, that was pretty cool. It was nice to see. And yeah, you're right. So my thing was like, how did Bruce survive that thing? whatever happened there. I wonder how we got out, but hey,
I don't
it doesn't
know.
matter now. It doesn't matter because he couldn't have jumped from there. They would have seen him.
Yeah.
And besides, it transformed back to Bruce. He wasn't
Yeah.
Hulk smash anymore. But
So
it's
yeah,
nice
I
that he
mean,
went to South America, learned a bit of
and he
Portuguese,
disappears, and you know,
or
and then he starts the whole like the Hulk thing that we know, where he's running around being chased by the government, right?
yeah,
That's when the Hulk that we know begins to happen, right? But
because
we
he
don't know
murders a
what
couple
happens
of
because we didn't
mercenaries.
make another
Because why? Because he murders a couple of rebels in the Amazon.
film.
Is that the
We don't
potential
see that.
beginning of Hulk smash? I mean,
Of course, yeah,
we can only assume he
yeah,
smashed them to bits, and then the
yeah.
legend of the green big monster in the Amazon was born.
That's it. That's it. So freaking love this film because the thing is, I'm okay. So let
I
me
won't
just
even
kind of
lie
wrap
with you, man. As soon as I saw the credits roll up in the beginning, I was like, oh, damn, Rita.
this is gonna be good.
No, not like this is gonna be good. Like, it's a damn trap. Rita definitely loves this movie. He probably thinks it's a 10 out of 10 on a good day. I've been set up here.
I
Next time I'm picking the damn
I
movie.
love this film so
Man,
much.
the minute I saw those
That's
credits,
fine. You can pick it.
I'm like, oh gosh, Rita. Oh goodness. Oh.
I love this film. I love this
Because I
film
know what you're
because
gonna
so
pick next. You're
many
gonna be like, oh,
because
Starship Troopers. Please don't give me Starship
I
Troopers. Please don't give me Starship.
you know me too well.
I will die. Please don't. That thing was on last year on the telly, and I was like, I'm not watching this. Gang was. Nah.
Can you speak up? I think you've gone faint a little bit.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No, just get close. I don't know
Let me
what
turn
happened.
this thing up. Let me turn this thing up. Is it better now? Is it better
Mm,
now? Is it better
carry on.
now? Is it
That's
better
better.
now?
Yeah.
Yes, that's this guy.
So okay, so let me kind of try to bring it all together, right?
Please
I'm of
do.
the view.
Mhm.
I'm of the view that as far as a superhero film is concerned, Ang Lee knocked this film out the park. And I think people were looking for something that he didn't make. And I think I wished that he got the recognition that he deserved. And I think he would have. Like, imagine if Hulk came out just after Batman Begins, because Batman Begins comes out 2 years later in 2005. And what Christopher Nolan does in Batman, in terms of putting together a thorough, in-depth origin story for Bruce Wayne, is the same thing that Ang Lee actually does for Bruce Banner, except that it's kind of like a proto Dark Knight trilogy that he does. And people slept on it because they didn't understand what he was doing. You know,
What
they were looking.
the first Batman Begins.
No. What people didn't understand what Ang Lee was doing.
Oh, sorry. We're speaking
They
about
didn't
Ang Lee.
understand what he was doing. They understood. They would have understood it if it came out about the same time as Batman Begins,
One time.
because that's what effectively happens with the two films. You know, this is stuff that I've been thinking about for a long time. But yeah, just from a character development perspective, his understanding of psychological theory, his ability to understand and describe what hulking out is about, and the severe trauma that Bruce Banner had repressed for such a long time, you know, and him beginning to find out who he is, that what happened to him is a part of who he is, and he needs to accept it, you know.
Yeah, but like, you know, as you say that, and I'm bringing it back to us. Like, can you still hear me? Because I am so loud in my own ears of this microphone. But anyways,
I can
it's kind of like you look at today's, and I hate to even say the word, but you look at you know, today's what is it, crime rates.
Yeah.
You know, Bruce has got something in him.
Yeah.
You know, and his repressed things. I think it's repressed memories, and they cause some sort of trauma. But they really, those things really make up who he is, or bring out who he truly is.
Yeah.
And it gets me thinking about some of the guys we interact with in Kakweni that, you know, that are hardened criminals. is
Yeah.
that they've been through some trauma themselves,
Yeah.
big time,
Yeah.
and maybe, I'm not trying to justify uh, criminal activity, just like I don't, justify the Hulk smashing people, but he didn't smash people. He
Yeah.
was, he was just spazzing out, and, he was seen as a threat, and others see where they saw a threat, they saw a weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it just gets me thinking, long story short, about amachita la so like asibambe inkunzi, abarobha abantu and all these things,
Yeah.
like now if it's abafethu nosisi bethu, like they are going through trauma,
Yeah. Yeah.
like serious trauma. And when you try and plead for someone to, like, please let you go, don't take my phone, or don't stab me, you can just see, bro, they're far gone, bro. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing ongayenza la lo muntu bethu has
Like
seen too much, done
this
too much.
person is not thinking with empathy anymore.
No, it's gone. It's just Hulk smash,
Yeah.
because it's about survival, you know.
Yeah.
And I liked this film because it got me thinking about
Mm.
just where it is that I live. Ngihlala eMzansi,
Mm.
as much as I like to call Cape Town Europe, you know, and I mean, like, I'm right, like in Europe, it's in Ukraine right now, because like ngihlala around like Lavender Hill and retreats
Yeah.
around those areas. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, man. So it got me thinking about that, and I really appreciated that, because sinabantu esifunde like ama-film and whatever, we decipher a movie with our what? With our underneath iceberg thing, the iceberg you don't see.
Yes.
Subconsciously, like, you're looking at the colors,
Yeah.
what do they mean? Yeah, da, 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 da,
Mm.
da. Like, what is the mise en scene? What is the camera angle telling me? And I
Exactly.
really loved, damn, there was this trippy thing Ang Lee was doing there, man. Like, whenever there was like something that was like a reveal, especially something of importance, of like bringing back like something from the past. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys know, like, you subconsciously, everyone who watches a film subconsciously knows of the line, whether you know it or not. Like, for
Yeah.
example, me and you, if we're watching a shot on TV, we need to be on the same shoulder. The cameras need to be on the same shoulder so that we're both on the same line. If you left,
Yeah.
like this, right? So because if we were to jump on the other side, if I were to go to that other shoulder on screen, it'll look funny. It would be like we
Yes.
look in the same direction. We've crossed the line. And there was this thing
Yes.
that Ang Lee was doing, especially when he was peeling back at some
Yeah.
of the information. He would intentionally cross the line, and I
Okay.
think he did that intentionally to grab your attention, like, I'm going to deliver something, like, you, because it always jumps on, like, line cross. Then as he crosses the line, it's like it goes now to that shoulder of that other person. So it showed me that he was shooting things twice over, if you
Yeah.
know what I mean. So,
Yeah.
like, obviously shooting things twice over, but like there were things where like the camera would go over the shoulder, and it's like, I found that interesting. I thought, like,
Yeah.
maybe that's a technique is using to try and grab one's attention, like, oh, what's going
Yeah.
on? Is a shift, or we're peeling back information. I loved the use of everything, man. Like, there were even Dutch tilts in there. I loved the fodder character, the guy who just wanted his experiment. I just want a sample. I thought he was
Yeah.
good fodder. I thought he was really good
Yeah.
fodder just to get us through the story. The story needed a bit of a douchebag just to kind of like break the tension a little bit,
He's
because
basically the voice of the government.
yeah, pretty much, which is pretty cool to have, like, because I thought he broke the tension pretty nicely. He was kind of like almost like the comic relief, because there was like no comic relief character. So I
Mm.
thought that was pretty
Mm.
cool. But otherwise, man, I thought it was great. I enjoyed the watch.
Yeah.
I've got 24 hours to watch it because I rented it. So I've got
Okay.
another 24 hours to watch it. So I'll probably watch it again tonight before it expires and see if I can
Yeah.
maybe pick up any other nuggets besides
Yeah.
the usual shebang.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that I think these sorts of things are at the heart of the reasons why I think this film is a lot better than people appreciate it,
Yeah, man.
because I remember, I mean, I'm of the view, for example, and this is part of the reason why. I remember what I said to you about, I think a person could use this film to teach like master's level psychoanalysis,
Yeah.
because that's how well Ang Lee, for a person who's not trained in this, that's how well he was able to understand it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think, yeah, sorry, man, to cut you off. Like, it just kind of, it kind of just like every time we keep talking about this, and I hate to say it, and I promised myself I wouldn't mention this film in the yeah joke, yabo, because it claims to be dealing with the same kind of themes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hope to goodness we don't ever do it. And if we do ever do that movie, I'm gonna be totally hammered. Just putting it out there, because yeah, I don't know what to make of that. It's like when you started talking about Batman. It's like when you it's like when you started talking about Batman, and it's like, I know I'm not a superhero fan, and like, who cares, really?
Look,
I mean, who cares about the rich guy that his parents got massacred, or not even massacred? I mean, they were killed in a robbery. And who cares? But you got the other freak there, Tony Stark, who's exactly in the same. He is a polar.
Yeah.
He's Batman, just with more gadgets. It's exactly the same people. But Tony Stark, I mean, I like him more than Batman, but I knew Batman way before Iron Man of the comic books and whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I find him more relatable, and you ask yourself, why? This guy's an egomaniac. Like Tony Stark it's all about him, and he doesn't care. And he knows that he's the life of the party. It's his rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And whereas Lo Munye, I just feel like Bruce Wayne is like fake humble. You know what I mean? So, and it's like, I see the parallels between the two, but the other one is just way more relatable in a sense that, like, oh look, I've seen what my weapons do, and I'm now going to try and bust myself out of here. And when I do, I'm gonna shut this ish down.
Yeah.
We watched an egotistical, whatever this get called nowadays, turn for the good. And then it's people from within his own organization. They were like, no, we've been bad, in case you didn't know. And we want to stay bad, but look good. You know? And Bruce Wayne, it's all about him. You know. But then again, I do say I am not a comic book fan. Personally, I find those Batman movies boring. I would not watch a Batman movie. I think they're terrible. They're too dark. They, like, I don't know what's going on with the cinematography. Just throw a couple of lights in there. It's like watching Game of Thrones season 8. And the most interesting thing for me about the Batman stuff is the antagonists are always the draw card. And it's a problem, and it's always a problem for me when the antagonist is more powerful than the protagonist, because it feels like the protagonist is just reacting to what the antagonist is doing, and therefore you don't actually have a story. You're just reacting to whatever the and that's it can happen. I always believe in a good antagonist is an evil person who believes in their motivations, because that's what rage and psycho, whatever. Because like, I could be stabbing someone with a knife, and I'm like, in this moment, I'm justified. Right? My mind will tell me, right in this very moment. I'm just trying to justify it to myself. I know I've gone on a tangent. I didn't mean to, but yeah, that's just
no. I mean, look, what you're talking about regarding Bruce, I think it's a conversation that we can have, because just like with Tony, throughout the MCU, there's a very important and powerful character arc that happens to him. He becomes very humanized and humble and genuine and vulnerable. That's the key. Tony becomes very vulnerable by the time the last film happens, right? And if you want to understand, the character development of Tony Stark, there's one line. Look at how he says, look at the context and the tone and the place from which he says the following words. In the first film, at the end, when he says, I am Iron Man, he's saying it as the first version of Tony Stark. By the time he says it at the end, when he snaps Thanos at the end, and he says the same thing, I am Iron Man. He means it totally differently, where at the beginning, he wore the suit.
Yeah.
At the end, he is the suit.
Yeah.
He doesn't need the suit. The suit has become irrelevant. At the beginning, the suit is just, it's something that he wears, but he's still deep down inside that arrogant prick. Yeah. By the end, all of that stuff is gone. The suit doesn't matter anymore. He is Iron Man. That's the character arc. And for Bruce Wayne, there's a certain character arc that happens throughout the Dark Knight trilogy. At the beginning, there is a reason and a purpose for why it is that he builds the character of Batman, right? And it's altruistic, and you realize this by the time you get to the Dark Knight Rises, and Alfred is able to help him understand this. At the end, the whole point of Bruce Wayne doing the Batman thing is to not deal with the trauma of his parents getting murdered in front of him. The whole thing is a giant psychological projection. Yeah. And by the end, he's living with the consequences of the fact that he said he wants to give up Batman, but he won't. Yeah. He's living in that world. He didn't come back to life. The war was supposed to be over by the time the Dark Knight ended, but he was still living as if. I remember Alfred says,
sorry, dude, could you just give me a second? Just 1 second, please. Just 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My thing is going to die right now, and I don't want it to die in mid-conversation because you're making me want to watch Batman right now. And I don't want to watch Batman.
Okay. This guy needs to come. We need to finish.
Sorry, man. I'm back.
Okay.
Puta madre. Oh. Whew. Let's see. Eureka. Thank you for that. Sorry, bro.
Okay,
Whew.
look.
I had to run for my child.
I know we're going to have to end soon. Okay.
No, for sure. I know.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want it to cut. I just didn't want it to cut, I know we're way over, and I had a sneaky suspicion that would happen.
So as you can tell, there are many other films to take a look at. There's the whole Dark Knight trilogy, there's Inception. But what I want to do is actually take turns, like I said. I suggested the film today. I would like for you to suggest one of your own, so that I can try to look for whatever it is that might be there, you'll let me know.
I can't, to be honest, I can't think of anyone right now, but I will let you know during the week. I would have, I don't even know if I did your assignment correctly.
No. I think you did great, because some of the stuff you were speaking about from a cinematic skill perspective, they add to the narrative. They add to these kind of psychological ideas that Ang Lee is able to show on screen.
And it's making me and it's making me want to go. Another embarrassing little fact: that in Life of Pi, I've never really watched it in its entirety. So it's something I'm definitely going to try and do this week, because I'm not traveling. Okay. I'm back from all my travels and all the filming. Yeah. So for the next 2 weeks, I think I'll be around. So I'll probably catch up and watch maybe Life of Pi. But I don't want to make this an Ang Lee thing. But seeing that you're giving him so much praise and props for the whole psychological thing, I'm gonna try watch a bit more of his work. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think it's been a great experience. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think great choice. Good choice, man.
Okay.
Like very good start. I'm actually stoked. I would have loved a movie that I could have trashed. Would have been better entertainment.
I'm not a bad movie watcher, bro. I hope I'm not. So yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that. We
No
went a
worries.
long time. If you are still
Good.
here watching this, thank you for staying around. We hope it's content that you can like, that you can subscribe to, that you can comment to, and we would love actual comments. Suggest what types of other films. Which other films do you want to have analyzed?
Maybe that's what you should do. Leave it to
Yeah,
whoever's watching.
whoever's watching at this
Whoever's
point.
watching,
Still.
if you get a notification by like one person, oh, I want you. And like, I think even local is cool, man. If you guys have got a local
Yes.
film, like even if you want to
Yeah.
throw Sarafina in there, go for it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. But hey, you
Okay.
gotta try and make it something we can get our hands on. I'm a VHS
Yes. That's
now,
fine.
but
Yeah.
DVDs are more than welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you for watching this in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Sia, for joining us. So remember,
yeah,
dude,
man. Great to keep
one
it
more
up, man.
time.
And I hope this segment of yours can take off well. And I promise
Yeah.
I'll be more prepared next time.
No, it's all good. That's good. One more time. Punt away. Who are you? Where can people get you?
Fit. Sorry about that. Like the reason why I even freaked out is because Ureta knows, bro. I'm not gonna give out my number. That's the only way you're really gonna get me is on WhatsApp. But
Look,
now, because there's this
if people want to
platform,
get hold
now
of
there's
you,
this platform. I'm just being honest, man. I don't. Yeah, Siyethemba, but you're not gonna find me anywhere. Just Daydream Films, the Daydream Film Company, everywhere you can try find it. The Daydream Film Company. Some of them you might have to write essay, but Facebook and Daydream Films, we're there. Drop us a like. You can message us. We do try and do local castings for local productions that we do. You know, the game. It's a tough game, and we all need to survive. So the best way we can, and we gotta maintain. The hardest thing about this is actually getting up and staying motivated. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
So yeah, I hope everyone has a good week, Rita. I hope you have a good week, and I can't wait for the next one. I actually am looking forward to it. You're giving me an excuse to, chill out and watch movies again.
Yeah. And as for me, my contact details are in the about section of the channel. You'll be able to find my email regarding any business inquiries. And thank you for watching. And goodbye.
Sharp.
Short.
May the peace and love of God be with you all.
Yeah. So, hang on. Dead.
Still recording, mate. Shy technology, man.
I'm trying to stop recording.
Okay.
There you are.
Clearly, this is the outtakes. And now the PC